So we are talking about rising food prices. And so what are the foods that are more expensive right now?
Well, corn is the big one that everyone was talking about yesterday. The Agriculture Department released a study predicting corn and other crop forecasts for the year, and they thought corn production was going to be down significantly. And corn goes into a lot of other foods that we eat, and it also goes into animal feed. So meat prices are expected to go up, and they've already gone up quite a bit, along with pretty much every other food you eat, fruits and vegetables, other grains, everything. Yeah.
And so who is most affected by that? You know, is it the people who are at the top of the socioeconomic ladder or the ones who are at the bottom? And what cities are most affected by that as well?
Good questions. I think as with many problems of this nature, people who tend to be lower down on the economic scale are going to suffer more because they're the ones who are going to really have to stretch to afford to buy the food that they need to eat. And in the United States, that's a big problem. It's also a global problem. There are people in other countries rioting over food prices. Prices of onions have gone up a lot in India, for example. Rice, staples of diets for people in many parts of the world are becoming sort of too expensive for them to afford, and it's a bit of a crisis, frankly.
So, you know, if you see these prices growing up, you go to the grocery store and all of a sudden you have this huge bill. I mean, what can you do to, you know, not empty your wallet every time you go food shopping?
It's a good question. I think the key is to be smarter about it and to be disciplined. So one thing I always want to, try to do myself is to make a list before I go and be very clear on what it is I need. However, you have to be flexible. When you get to the supermarket and you see that the thing you wanted, fresh tomatoes, whatever it is actually very expensive, you need to kind of be ready to make a switch. Maybe you need to use canned tomatoes. I think you want to load up on things that are on sale, things that are local. Those tend to be cheaper, and be willing to go without certain things in the weeks they seem more expensive.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of grocery stores these days, they're all online, and you can, if you go to their website, they have all of, you know, what's on sale, the bargains, and they even sometimes will have what's on sale for next week.
That's right. So you can do a little advanced recon and figure out what you're going to buy ahead of time, which is a good idea, so you don't get stuck having to make impulse decisions. And then for some people who have time, clipping coupons is always something that people mention. Personally, I don't have time to do that kind of thing, although I love the idea. I think it's always good to kind of save money wherever you can and stash it under your pillow for later.
Now, I mean, is this a trend? I mean, are the prices going to continue to increase?
Well, that's a good question. It doesn't seem like anything is going to happen that's going to cause them to go down. There isn't a whole lot anyone can really do. One of the causes of this problem is the freak weather we're having in different parts of the world, which may be related to climate change. There were terrible droughts and fires in Russia. Russia produces a lot of wheat. That affects the global wheat market. There are these floods in Australia going on right now. Florida is freezing, so a lot of citrus crop is being lost. So there's nothing we can really do about this crazy weather. Well, that can be done quickly. So that's one big problem. And another issue is the fact that the recession is easing. So people are starting to buy certain things now that maybe they were cutting back on for a while. So that is putting pressure as well. So anytime that you have production going down and demand going up, the prices go up.
Oh, that sounds like a horrible combination, at least for the consumer. Well, do we have any questions from people who are watching online?
Well, not so much questions, but the chat room is talking about the connection between rising prices and fighting obesity, and thinking that maybe there may be a connection there.
Because
down the road.
Well, I mean, so with higher prices, then people tend to eat unhealthy or cheaper foods that are usually not as healthy. Is that the case?
I think that's the problem. Fresh fruits and vegetables tend to be more expensive, and so now they're becoming even more sort of luxury items. So that's a challenge. I think we need to work on sort of educating people on how to eat well on a budget, something we haven't done so well thus far. But.
Yeah, just because your grocery bill is high doesn't mean that you should go to McDonald's.
Exactly. McDonald's is really not good nutritional value for your dollars.
Not that we want to demonize McDonald's, because they
no,
have oatmeal.
But it's an interesting question. It's an interesting statement to make because in urban areas where in lower income neighborhoods, the fresh fruits and vegetables aren't always available. The studies have
They're
been
not
done.
available.
So it's much easier to go to a fast food chain, and this is of course where the obesity problems are in larger cities, are in the lower income neighborhoods. So it's a whole systematic. It's a problem on the systematic level. Hasn't been.
When I was a local reporter in the Bronx, I mean, there were the supermarkets, even if you would go to them, the supermarkets did not have fresh produce. Meanwhile, it had the most per capita, fast food restaurants, so many in a small place in like the United States. So it's, that just tends to happen in the poorer parts of
So if
cities.
you're a vegetarian like me, is my food budget going to be terribly affected?
I think everyone's food budget is going to be affected. You may not notice it necessarily. It might happen gradually. And frankly, I've been noticing prices of things going up already. It's not like this is anything even that new. I mean, things have gotten really, really expensive. A carton of organic milk at my local supermarket is like $6 or something. It's crazy. But I think if you are a vegetarian, you have some advantages in that you don't eat meat. Meat tends to be more expensive. So maybe you'll eat beans, maybe you'll eat eggs. Egg prices seem to have been more stable versus other things. So yes, you have to be creative.
Unless you get the cage-free organic eggs, which are about $7.
Yeah, that's it. The organic thing, I think a lot of people are going to end up having to throw a bit of that out the window, even though I think it is healthy to eat organically. That type of food tends to be
start a little garden. My friend Sheila has a small house in Brooklyn here, and she grows tomatoes, potatoes. She has 3 chickens in her backyard, so she's got eggs.
And so she has the room to do that. That's nice.
But it's a little tiny. I mean, this is New York City. Her yard is the size of a postage stamp, but she's making the most of it with hanging baskets to grow vegetables, and the chickens really just eat all the grass, so that she doesn't have to cut the grass.
Well, thank you, Sheila, for stopping by and telling us about this, and hopefully the prices will go down and we can talk about something else.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you.